So how do you really know when softneck garlic is ready to harvest? Well, it does actually make it pretty easy for you because it just flops over on its side like this. And yes, I do realize this looks a little extra dry and crispy right now, and that's just because it's taken a little bit longer to find the time to actually make this video, so it is definitely ready to come out now. This is a softneck variety called Inchellium Red, and it's best to plant your garlic in the fall, at least here in the northern hemisphere, and that goes for softneck and hardneck. And so for us, that means we're in zone 5, so we plant ours the beginning to the middle of October. I think I planted this closer to the middle, and so then it takes 9 months to grow, and here we are, the middle of July, and it's ready to come up. So with softneck, this can store for up to about 9 months. So that was one reason that I wanted to grow this. But it's also kind of an experiment because the softneck varieties are not as cold hardy as hardneck. And so I wasn't really sure if this was even going to grow well here. But you can see in the video here when I planted this, I put a pretty thick layer of fall leaves on top. And then they got quite a bit of snow, which also helps to insulate them. And then when it got down to 25 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit for a few days and stayed well below 0 for a while, they were well protected. And I believe every single one of the cloves that I planted came up, and they've done just fine. But we are definitely going to do some hardneck next year because the one thing that's different is that softneck does not grow the garlic scapes, and hardneck does, and we really love those. They are very tasty, so we would love to have those again. And I also want to mention that this space growing back here, you can see how cramped this is now. In theory, this seemed like a good idea because garlic is so easy to grow. In an ideal situation where you're not having to worry about weeds or anything like that, you can just plant your garlic and don't really have to do much of anything to it aside from harvesting the scapes if you're growing hardneck, and making sure that it's getting enough water. But otherwise, you can just leave it alone. But as you can see, this spot back here is not ideal because we have tons of weedy growth trying to spread its way into here, and this is not a good spot to have to do any weeding. So that all of that stuff getting in here has definitely taken away water and nutrients from the garlic. So that's one way that it is definitely limited the bulb size. Also, this area still does not soak up heavy rains very well. And so in the spring when we had tons of rain, this was just a pool back here. It killed off a lot of the raspberries, and thankfully, at least the garlic, all of it survived, but I imagine it was still not good for it. It had probably, all of these had established a good root system by that point, so they survived okay, but, you know, that's another thing that I'm sure limited their size. So as long as you have an ideal setup and probably some good straw mulch around all the garlic after it starts sprouting up, you can put some straw or some more fall leaves around it, and that will keep the weeds out, keep the moisture in there. You don't even have to worry about watering as much, and that would be a much better setup for it. So we'll try something like that in the raised beds for next time. But for now, this is all ready to pull up, and then we get into the curing process, and I'll show you all of that. So unless you have really, really loose soil, in which case we're all jealous, it's not a good idea to just pull it up by the stem, but rather loosen the soil around it, work a trowel underneath, and push it up from below. Then you can just use your hands to work off any of the excess soil that's stuck to it. give it a really good inspection, make sure it doesn't have any rotting damage from water or insects trying to dig their way in there. Then it's just a matter of pulling up all the rest and giving them a head count, see how many you got. Set aside any of the little ones that you may want to save for planting the cloves for next year. So there you go. That's a really good harvest. It's a wood chip. So yeah, these look great. We got 18 cloves out of all this, and that is all the ones that we planted, and they look great. There's a few smaller ones. These are some of the ones that some of the first that I picked about a week ago, but otherwise they've all gotten pretty great. I think that's the winner right there. But yeah, these look fantastic. So now we have to cure them for about 3 weeks, and so you can hang them however you want to do that. You know, tie these onto here, leave them as they are. Don't work off some of the major clumps of dirt, but don't wash them with water at all, because that can lead to mold and mildew. But leave the entire plant as it is, and they will take a lot of the last of the nutrients and everything to kind of finish off curing, drying the garlic, and helps with storage and all that. So however you want to hang them up, the most important things are that they are out of direct sunlight, they're not going to get rained on, and they have a little bit of airflow. So if you have a good spot for that outside, that's really good, because then you just get a nice breeze blowing through. We have to do these in the basement because we don't have a good spot out here. So I'll probably just set up a little miniature clothesline down in the basement attached to the ceiling, and then hang them about 3 or 4 to a clothespin so they don't get too dense in there and they can dry out pretty easily. And then set up a small fan blowing across them and just leave that going for at least 3 weeks. So really that's about it. Once they are cured, we can braid them and leave them hanging down in the basement and use them as needed, and you know, of course, wash them off at that point. And it's good because we're actually just about out of the store-bought garlic that we got. We get one of those giant jars from Costco for $5, and that's really cheap, but this is even better. So thanks for watching, and hopefully this was all helpful to you in some way. And please be sure to subscribe with the button below for more videos, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.